Let's give our highly talented Central Mariachi Band under the direction of Ladine Harton another round of applause. Way to go, young people, way to go. SAISD has award-winning JROTC programs under the leadership at Central High School of Lieutenant Colonel Raul Lopez, Master Sergeant George Marquez, and Lakeview High School, Major Regina Harris, Master Sergeant Kyle Mantell, and Master Sergeant Curtis Wheeler. I agree with you, they're outstanding. Representatives from these award-winning JROTC programs will post our colors. Please rise. Join us in singing our national anthem. Our pledges will be led this morning by these fine young people, our drum majors from our two high schools. From Lakeview, Marisa Alonso and Santos Tobias, and from Central, Josh McGuire, Jackie Cody, and Claire Wilcox.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor
To the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas,
one state,
under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated.
He was hoping he could announce his own, but he can't.
This morning, we are so delighted to have two numbers performed for us by our award-winning bands from both of our high schools. They are under the direction of some wonderful folks. At Central High School, head band director Keith Call, who's assisted by Mike Berry and Sarah Clark. At Lakeview High School, their band is under the direction of Cindy Costello, Brad Davis, and Matt Vaught. Our orchestra at Central is under the direction of David Phillips, and at Lakeview, Fred Hanley. Our choir at Central is directed by Les Cole, Sunday Bullock, and at Lakeview High School, Jehu Hernandez. Thank you so much, young people, for what you are going to present for us today. Mr. Call. Wow, are we proud of these young people, including our mariachi. Young people, thank you. You've blessed our hearts. Ladies and gentlemen, let us open our 2009 convocation with an invocation brought by a man who deeply loves children and those of us who nurture and care for children. Bishop Mike Pfeiffer.
Wow, I thought this was a serious school gathering. I walked in here and we had mariachis. I told Dr. Bond, sounds like a party. But shouldn't school be a party? We should be happy and joyful, isn't that right? Yes. Well, it is a joy to have this privilege and opportunity of praying with you, superintendent, principals, teachers, professors, instructors, counselors, coaches, all school personnel, secretaries, maintenance people, school board, all who are here present. And yes, to pray for all of those who are in our schools, especially our good students, as we begin another school year. And I'm so happy that we have so many people from Goodfellow Air Force Base joining us today. Have you heard the best news of the day? SAISD Board awards raises, $100 per month hike for teachers. I thank the school board. Now, if I had my way, I'd add a couple of more zeros onto that. What do you think about it? Don't run me off the stage, school board. I do thank my good friend, Dr. Carol Bonds, for giving me this unique opportunity to pray with you and for you. And before I enter into prayer, with her permission, I want to make a few comments, especially about the importance of teaching and teachers and the great service that you give to the children of the schools of our beautiful community. Last year, I think I visited 8 or 10 schools, and I hate to maybe play favorites, but my favorite school is Bel Air. They're right down the street from my office, and I see them very often. Good to see you again. You know, it's good to know who's who in our schools and how they function, so let me give you a little definition here of some of our school superheroes. All of you are heroes, but some are extra heroes. Who is a superintendent? A superintendent leaps tall buildings in a single bound, is more powerful than a locomotive, walks on water, and give policy to God. A principal leaps short buildings in a single bound, is more powerful than a switch engine, is just as fast as a speeding bullet, walks on water if the sea is calm, and talks to God. An assistant principal leaps short building with a running start and favorable winds, is almost as powerful as a switch engine, walks on water in an indoor pool, talks with God if special permission is approved by the principal. A teacher makes high marks on the wall when trying to leap tall buildings, is run over by locomotives, dog paddles, and emails God with questions. Now, a secretary and other school personnel. A secretary lifts buildings and walks under them. Kicks locomotives off the track. Catches speeding bullets in his teeth and eats them. Freezes water with a single glance, and is God. The most vital element or component of what makes a strong community and all of society is education and teaching. And you who are teaching and educators, all who are involved in this most special service, and in many ways, one of the most difficult services for our community, you deserve much recognition and appreciation. Our theme for today is patriotic, which means being dedicated to a cause, having a strong public spirit. Teachers, educators, all of you involved in our schools, this you truly have. Let's give an applause to that. In my opinion, teachers today are not always recognized for the great service they give our young people, our children, and in many ways are not sufficiently remunerated in an economic sense. That's why I was so happy to read today about the raise that all of you will receive. Can we still add a couple of zeros to that? Teachers are to teach, to give knowledge, and to draw out wisdom out of children and students. But a major part of education is teaching students values. Teaching our students values will help them to make good choices in their lives. And in today's ever-changing and fast-paced world we live in, one of the most important things we can do is to teach strong values for our students. Teaching values to our students must start with our own lives. First, we need to understand what are our values, and if we lack perhaps certain values or are unhappy with the ones we have, then now is the time to change. So let us pray. And to begin, I share a few words from the Holy Word of God from the book of Sirach, which says, "If you wish, you can be taught. If you are willing to listen, you will learn. If you give heed, you will be wise. Reflect on the precepts of the Lord. Let his commandments be your constant meditation. Then he will enlighten your minds, and the wisdom you desire will be granted." Heavenly Father, we pray for your blessing upon this school year, upon all of our students, teachers, all those involved in our schools. And loving God our Father, we recognize you as the source of all wisdom and knowledge. Heavenly Father, we give you praise, glory, and honor with our lives and our service as we begin another school year. You are our God. You are the creator of our bodies and minds and hearts. You have sent the Spirit of wisdom and knowledge to guide your people in all their ways. At the beginning of this new school year, we implore your mercy and love and ask your great Holy Spirit to guide all of us. Bless our students, parents, teachers, superintendent, our school board, principals, coaches, all school personnel and staff, that we together may all grow in new faith, hope, and love as we learn from you, the teacher of teachers, and how to follow your Son. Expand the horizons of our minds so that we may grow in wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Deepen our commitment to seek the truth of your ways. Enlighten our faith to reach out to those in need. Send your Spirit upon our students, their parents, all teachers, all those involved in education, and fill them, yes, with your wisdom, your light, and your knowledge. Grant that during this academic year, our students may devote themselves to their studies and share what they have learned with others. Heavenly Father, look upon these teachers and all school personnel. Let them strive to share their knowledge with gentle patience and endeavor to always bring the truth to eager young minds. Watch over and protect our schools, our people from all harm and danger. Give all of us good health and protect us from evil and harm. And may your peace be with us and reign always in our hearts. And grant that students and teachers alike may follow your Son, Jesus, who tells us he is the true way, the truth, and the life. Before I end, I want to leave you a little prayer that many people ask me to always tell them about. It's my prayer of the dog. Many of you have little puppies at home, don't you? Here's the prayer. Dear God, teach me to be the kind of person my dog thinks I am. Who made that little puppy to love you so much? How do you spell dog backwards? G-O-D. God bless all of you. Thank you. Did I take too long?
No. Today we begin a new year after just closing one of the most successful academic years in the history of San Angelo Independent School District. Each of you, 2,100 employees, contributed a critical role in the achievement of 11 exemplary schools, 7 recognized schools, and 5 acceptable schools. This whole district achievement was the best of the big schools in West Texas. You made it possible for our children to achieve unimaginable levels of excellence. It's my honor to introduce others on this platform who also provide the foundation for us to be successful. Our school board sets the policies and frameworks for us, the paid employees, to achieve. Our president and vice president are not with us today, but Lanny Lehman is our president, Dan Baker our vice president, Max Parker is with us, our secretary, Tim Archer, our treasurer, Gerard Gallegos is a member, Art Hernandez, and Cookie Roberts. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you so much for how you let us do our jobs so that we can achieve excellence. Thank you so much. Two years ago, we added an advisor to our school board from a critical school district partner. Our current resident school board advisor is Lieutenant Colonel Scott Shuttleworth, who is the deputy commander of the 17th Mission Support Group. Colonel Shuttleworth and his predecessor have assisted us in transitioning new families with their precious children into our schools and community, and strengthening the services our district wants so much to provide our military heroes. With us today are several of the new commanders at Goodfellow. They include Colonel David Rearick, Vice Commander of the 17th Training Wing. Chief Ed Forrest, Superintendent of the 17th Mission Support Group. Colonel Guy Parker, who is the Commander of the 17th Mission Support Group. And our District Advisor, Lieutenant Colonel Scott Shuttleworth, who's the Deputy Commander of the 17th Mission Support Group. Words seem inadequate, gentlemen and ladies who are our guests today, for the sacrifices you have made for us throughout your careers and will continue in order that we may be here today. We thank you so much. Let's stand and give our servicemen and women our show of gratitude. Almost 2 years ago, many people that I had come in contact with and had learned to respect in San Angelo recommended we do everything possible to persuade Dr. Brian May to facilitate our Bond Advisory Committee. Dr. May worked tirelessly for months to lead a group of community members to build a bond program that our voters did indeed support and passed last November. I proudly introduce to you the ASU Dean of Graduate School, who gave so generously of his time to make it possible for 11 of our campuses to be dramatically improved through new construction and or major renovations. He is going to provide a welcome to us today from ASU. Dr. May, our friend.
Well, on behalf of Angelo State University, I want to welcome y'all to the Janelle Center. I think it's a great facility, but it could not have any higher and better use than what it has right now. As Dr. Bond said, I wasn't really a good student of SAISD to know all the facilities and the struggles and the over barriers that you face every day until I started working on that bond election. I visited every campus in SAISD. And I want you to know that you are the true heroes and heroines of this city. You overcome more obstacles and accomplish more for more people and more children with less than any school district I've ever visited. And I want you to know we appreciate everything that you do for this city. At the graduate school at Angelo State, I'm now the dean of. We also want to welcome you as you try to increase or try to go on in your academic standing. I want you to know that starting for this coming spring, the spring of 2010, we are going to waive the GRE requirement for application admission to graduate school at Angelo State for people in higher education. We've also accomplished to get all of our education advanced degrees online. We want to make it to where I'm also trying to put out satellite campuses across the state, mainly in the San Antonio area. But we're going to make it easier for our people here at home, the ones who brought us to the table, and that's SAISD teachers. We want you to come to Angelo State. We want to be pleasing. We want to be open. We want to make it as easy as possible for you to get your advanced degrees. We have degrees in educational diagnostics, reading specialists. Many of these you know about. We have a Master's of Education and Curriculum Instruction, Guidance and Counseling, School Administration, Student Development, Leadership, and Higher Education. So if that is a part of your plan, I want you to know that we want to have you, but more specifically here today, I join with my Bishop Pfeiffer, who did a great job in thanking you for what you do for the city of San Angelo. I wish you Godspeed and good luck for the upcoming year.
Good job. We all look forward to watching young people when they leave us as they continue to achieve success. What a great privilege we have today to have some of our alumni who are in grad schools in some great universities in our state to perform for us again this year. One of our Central grads, Miss Brandy Phillips, whose father and mother both work in our district. David is our conductor at Central of our orchestra, and Terry works in Central office with our advanced academic studies. And Brandy, we're so proud of you. She is now a grad student, has completed her first year for her master's in violin performance at Southern Methodist University in Dallas. She is going to play for us some works today by all-American composers. By some of my favorite composers. Brandy, thank you. 2 pieces by George Gershwin from Porgy and Bess, Summertime, and It Ain't Necessarily So. She's accompanied by our great Lakeview graduate who will also perform in just a second for us, but he's going to accompany Brandy, Michael Snyder, who's at the University of Texas in Austin, almost through with his doctorate. Brandy, go girl. Wow, Brandy. What a privilege to have Michael Snyder, who he says he's within a year or so of finishing. He's almost through with his coursework at the University of Texas on his PhD in performance. Graduated just a few years ago from Lakeview High School. And what a privilege to have you back. And he is going to be performing Prelude Number 5, Grandiose. Did you write this, Michael? Way to go. He's also going to be performing Tournament Gallop by Louis Gottschalk. Thank you, Michael, for coming back today. We have another number that Brandy will play for us by one of my favorite composers, Aaron Copland. It's called Hoedown from the Rodeo. Aren't we proud of our alumni? Woohoo! We have Michael's mother also here. Mrs. Snyder, wave to us up there. Boy, did you do good. And David and Terry, God bless you for what you gave us. We will take some time right now to celebrate each group here today. In leading this are two of our assistant soups, Shelley Hullahan and Jeff Bright.
Woo, Mr. Bright, Mr. Bright. I look at this sea of colors. I see the orange and the blacks and the blues and the yellows and the purples and the fuchsias and the turquoises and the lime greens and the yellows. And I think, woo, doesn't it feel good to be in Bobcat Chief Maiden Country today? Doesn't it feel good? Let me hear. Doesn't it feel good? Woo! Feels great to dominate.
Do you see what I have to work with up here? a 24-hour-a-day probation officer, and a crazy lady.
Seriously, seriously, Jeff, we are here to celebrate the many successes and everyone in this room that it took to get there for this awesome, and what's the word I hear? Dominating district of West Texas.
Yes,
what
yes.
a great, great job we did.
And I understand now that Dr. Bonds has picked out some special music for us this year. So David, won't you take it away? Thank you, David. We'll just wing it. Is that it? Wing it and sling it. Hey, we do have the pleasure and the honor to recognize every department that's here this morning. So let's start this thing off right. Let's start this thing off with a bang. We know we have some American heroes up here in the crowd, but we have some heroes within our organization as well. These men and women, I promise you, will work from now through night, through the weekend, to make sure your classrooms are ready Monday morning.
Not bad for a 74-year-old woman.
Oh, yeah. You're on probation now. Hey, let's start this thing off right. Let's start off with a bang. Let's give it up for our heroes, the men and women, the maintenance, grounds, and custodial department.
Holding 3,000 plus ARDs as well as many other services. Give a round of applause for their special education department at Sam Houston.
Special ed. These guys take care of over 9,000 or almost 9,000 computers in the district, and we can't live without them. You guys say good morning to technology department.
Working behind the scenes and serving and supporting any way they can. Let's hear it for the staff of the central office. Administration, not just central office.
These men and women up here served 2.5 million meals last school year. Guys, say good morning to still the largest restaurant chain in town, Food Service.
Taking care of the medical needs of approximately 15,000 students in our first line of defense against the swine flu. Jeff told me to say something about flying pigs. Let's give it up for our nurses.
Here's another little fact for you. Did you know that our buses traveled last year enough miles to go around the earth 64 times last year? Guys, let's give it up to these men and women in the transportation department.
And down on the center floor, from diapers, Tiny Texans, to diplomas, Carver. They never get up on a child that has significant challenges. Welcome the staff of Tiny Texan and Carver Learning Center. Woo!
I got the big challenge here of recognizing this group, and where do you start listing their accomplishments? Because as soon as you do, you leave somebody out. But evidently this year, you're going to think big. You guys say good morning to Central High School.
committed to developing learners, leaders, and legends. Say good morning to the Mean Green from Raiderland, Glenn Middle School. Woo!
Shelley told me not to say this, but I'm going to anyway. I know from personal experience that these are some of the finest teachers and best people you'll find in our district. Guys, give it up for the Lee Rebels.
I told him not to say that because I think you are all fine and the best we have.
I know.
Okay, introducing the team that believes in success, nothing less. Give a warm welcome to the staff of Lincoln Middle School. Woo!
Here's another one that you don't know where to start because you can't end it. Whether it's success on the field or in the classroom, let's say good morning to Lakeview High School.
Also down on center floor, redefining your destiny of 45 high school graduates last year, the strong staff of 3. Let's hear it for the PAYS staff.
All right. That's great. Serving over 700 kids ages 0 to 5. I like it, man. Dr. Bonds, busting out. 700 school children, 0 to 5, say good morning to Day, Blackshear, and Rio Vista Head Start Centers.
Making a great start to a high school career, and our first recognized secondary campus. Welcome the staff of Central Freshman Campus. Woo! Way to go, guys! Yes! Woo!
And here we go, starting with our first of our exemplary campuses. Lights, camera, exemplary. Say good morning. 2 years in a row now. Alta Loma Elementary.
From the depths of the jungle, here's another exemplary campus. We are wild about Austin Elementary.
I've got another one. Another exemplary campus. Way to go. Let's say good morning to the Eagles of Bel Air.
I got another one too. You never get tired of saying, I can't even read that. We have another SAISD exemplary campus. Here are the Wild Rockin' Rattlers from Bonham Elementary. Woo! Great job, ladies.
Way to go. Here's a campus that jumped from acceptable to exemplary in 1 year. Feel the power of the positive patriots from Bowie Elementary.
The Lobos are on the prowl, becoming another recognized campus. Let's give it up for the faculty and staff of Bradford Elementary. Where are you, Bradford?
Hey, we're down here.
Whoa, great job, ladies and gentlemen. It is a lot easier to say exemplary than where's the whiskey. Let's put your hands together for the exemplary staff Bears of the Crockett Elementary. Right. Say hello to the Bears of Crockett Elementary. I just need to tell you that Jeff changed our program about 2 minutes before this all started.
Got to be flexible. We have another recognized campus that we're proud of, and under new leadership this year, say good morning to Fannin Elementary.
For the second year in a row, the Pioneers are recognized campus. Is it a bird? It's a plane? No, it's the superheroes of Fort Concho Elementary. Great job.
Breaking the sound barrier and earning an exemplary rating for the second year in a row. Just can't hide that Glenmore pride. Say good morning to the Jets from Glenmore.
How do you spell exemplary? G-O-L-I-A-D. Let's hear it for the Goliad Elementary.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. 4 years in a row, exemplary. Say good morning to the Panthers of Holloman Elementary. The construction crew.
Lion Pride shows the moment you step on this campus. They are the king of the jungle and our largest recognized elementary school. Let's hear it for Lamar Elementary.
And here's my friends up here. I went to their website. It said, drop and give me excellence. Say good morning to another exemplary campus, McGill.
Three years in a row as a recognized campus and blasting off toward another successful mission. Let's welcome the Rockets of Reagan Elementary. Very good.
And here's another recognized campus, first year recognized. We're very proud of the Dream Warriors of San Jacinto Elementary School.
Achieving an exemplary rating for 4 years in a row, making learning for life the standard. Here is the phenomenal Flying Falcons from Santa Rita. Great job, ladies. Woo!
And I'm up here, Shelly, up here. Last but not least, we have some special guests. We've recognized them once. We're going to do it again. Man, we're so proud and honored to have you here today. And we appreciate everything you do, putting your lives on the line to protect our country. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give another warm SAISD welcome. Goodfellow. Okay, Dr. Bonds.
Yes, Jeff? You know, yes is my favorite word, Jeff. What's your favorite word?
Aww.
Thank you, Jeff and Shelley, for helping us celebrate some accomplishments this last year that have excelled every hope and prayer that we could have asked. We are privileged to have a new alumni, not a new alumni, but a new alumni to come and perform for you all. Daniel Makins writes his own music, and last year when I interviewed Daniel, he told me it was well over 1,000 published works. I asked Daniel, after only being with him probably 30 seconds, was he in the office a lot as a child? And his well thought out answer was, not every day. Daniel is in graduate school at Angelo State University, highly gifted. We're so glad to have you back in the city, Daniel. And probably one of my favorite numbers that you've written is Peanut Butter. I'm not sure that you will. He wrote it for our governor at the spur of the moment when the agriculture department needed a little jingle to help promote good nutrition for children. And it just shows how gifted he is. And Daniel, welcome back. We are so proud of you. You add joy to our world.
Well, thanks. I guess I'm playing peanut butter. I'm not really much of a set list kind of guy anyway, so that's all right. You getting anything, David? Oh, there it is. Well, yes, this song, Peanut Butter, while not a very patriotic number, is... I was told this was a patriotic theme, and she introduces peanut butter as my first song, so... It's true. I played Governor Perry's backyard for a party, and it was actually for the food bank. Peanut butter has lots of protein and apparently lasts forever. So, as long as you avoid that E. coli variety, you're good to go with peanut butter. So here's a little number called Peanut Butter. I like it on wheat, but I'll take white. Sometimes on crackers late at night. I get my sticky fingers everywhere. It tastes so good, I don't care. It's just peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter, honey. Peanut butter all the time. That really wasn't in the song originally, but I guess we'll just play right through it. Is it the guitar? So I just talk about peanut butter. Hey, David, it's on. So, what verse was I on anyway? I don't... Whoo, Elvis liked it with bananas, 'cause that tastes good. He'd stick to Priscilla, but she understood. Even a king needs simple things. He'd say, thank you very much. Hey, for the joy it brings. It just peanut butter and jelly. A peanut butter, honey. Peanut butter all the time. Keep your caviar and your Swiss fondue. Brie smells funny and so do you. High-class parties really give me fits, so I'll be in the kitchen putting it on a Ritz, singing peanut butter and jelly. A peanut butter, honey. Peanut butter all the time. We've all liked it since the first school snack. Even after a struggle, a dog will come back for more and more with a tired tongue and say, I'm your best friend, you're number one. I'm your best friend, now give me some of that peanut butter and jelly. A peanut butter, honey. Peanut butter all the time. Now when I die, don't take me too far. Just burn me up and put me in a jar. Then spread me out on a peanut field, and I come back as a perfect meal, singing peanut butter and jelly. A peanut butter, honey. Peanut butter all the time, talking all the time. So my musical gifts are slightly simple compared to Brandy's and Michael's, but it's an honor to be here just the same. Michael reminded me yesterday that I was a piano student of his at one time. You see, my mother forced me to play piano for 10 years. Then I took up the drums to get back at my mother for that. And gave Cindy Costello and Fred Hanley and David Phillips a hard time. And then I started playing guitar because it's just easier to carry around than the piano or the drums. It's really just laziness that has guided my path. So, despite your best efforts, here I stand. Well, in a patriotic theme, I had intended to write sort of something for our troops, and I did, but then I heard that our guest speaker was going to play a song, and I believe he'll have a little more poignancy than I will in that department. So I'm going to let him handle that end of it. I'm going to sing a patriotic song about the Concho Valley, which I'm very proud to have grown up here. And this is just a little simple song about growing up here. And I guess the git of what you guys are dealing with on a daily basis is this is a song about me growing up here and then coming back here and refusing to grow up here. So. When I was small, I rode my bike in the mud. Nothing but trouble, a little dirty, I always was. Drove my mama crazy and my father half insane as a West Texas kid who had never seen the rain. I was small and my mother took my clothes to save them from the mud puddle Daddy called a road. 'Cause if you're going fast enough, it'll splash you from behind. So in my cartoon hero underwear, I let that Schwinn unwind. Sunsets were symphonies conducted by the evening breeze when climbing mesquite tree. Always watch for thorns. It's a Concho Valley paradise, a bargain. And twice the price, that muddy water sure feels nice in a childhood thunderstorm. I got bigger and drove my truck in the mud. Dad got it used at Jim Bass Ford, and first sight it was love. My friends thought I was crazy, some back roads hurricane. Just a West Texas kid who had never seen the rain. I got bigger and my daddy took the keys to teach me a lesson and prevent muddy tragedy. He said, son, just because you built Ford tough don't mean you can't get stuck. So I watched the rain from our garage and cleaned that dirty truck. And sunsets were symphonies conducted by the evening breeze when climbing mesquite tree. Always watch for thorns. It's Concho Valley paradise, a bargain. Twice the price, said muddy water sure feels nice in a childhood thunderstorm. Now I am older and my kid is in the mud. I try and understand, I try and show my love. Smiling sure comes easy as he laughs himself insane. Just a West Texas kid who had never seen the rain. Now I am older and my wife must look away as I strip down to my underwear and go back to that place where a thundercloud on a sunny day can heal a troubled soul. One big kid, one big puddle on life's muddy road. And Sunsets were symphonies conducted by the evening breeze when climbing a mesquite tree. Always watch for thorns. It's Concho Valley paradise, a bargain. Twice the price, that muddy water sure feels nice in a childhood thunderstorm. Yes, that muddy water sure feels nice in a childhood thunderstorm. Have a great year.
Michael Snyder, Daniel Makins, and our guest Keni Thomas will have CDs available out in the hall after our convocation today. You all have helped mold outstanding and successful young people. You've driven them to school, you've fed them, you've taken care of them when they've had earaches, you've kept their schools clean, you have mowed the yards so that they don't have stickers when they're running trying to find the mud when it rains. And you all have not, you've only loved them when they've had these gifts that these young people, these alumni and these young people. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today. Keni Thomas comes to us from Columbus, Georgia, where he has lived since enlisting in the Army in 1991. After completing airborne school in the Ranger Indoctrination Program, he was assigned to B Company 3rd Ranger Battalion of the 75th Ranger Regiment, where he subsequently earned his Ranger tab. In the summer of 1993, Sergeant Thomas and B Company were deployed to Mogadishu, Somalia, as part of a special operation package called Task Force Ranger. Their mission was to find and capture a criminal warlord named Mohammed Farah Adid. On the 3rd of October, Keni and his fellow Rangers distinguished themselves in an 18-hour firefight that would later be recounted in the highly successful book and movie Black Hawk Down. 19 Americans died and 78 were wounded in the worst urban combat seen by U.S. troops since World War II. Sergeant Thomas stayed in the Army for 3 more years as an assistant team leader for a 6-man Ranger reconnaissance team. He earned his master parachutist rating with over 380 military free fall jumps. He completed the Special Forces Combat Diver course, became an advanced EMT, and was one of 10 Americans to complete the Belgium Commando course. Keni got out of the Army to work as a counselor for problematic youth. He is a national spokesperson for the Hero Fund and the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, which provides college educations to the children of our special operations personnel killed in combat or training. Keni now works full-time as a Nashville recording artist, and his music can be heard on country stations nationwide. His band, Cornbread, was featured in the movie Sweet Home Alabama. He also worked as a military advisor on the Mel Gibson movie We Were Soldiers. He has also made numerous appearances as a military analyst on CNN, PBS, NBC Dateline, Fox, and the History Channel. Keni Thomas is a graduate of the University of Florida and the recipient of the Bronze Star for Valor. Please welcome Keni Thomas.
Hey, y'all. Thank you for you've done a lot of standing ovations tonight. So they teach you in show business that you should always end on a good note and never take a standing ovation for granted. So thank you. Good night. Hey, man, this is a great day. One of my best friends in Nashville is from San Angelo, and he went to Lakeview, and so he was always. If you knew how good that Steve Mandel has done in his lifetime, you would probably have him on a billboard. He's a big guy in Nashville, but he was always bragging on the town. And so I was actually in the studio with him the day that this one came in. I said, hey man, I'm going to San Angelo. And he wanted to come with me. But he'd been telling me all about it. I don't think he had any idea that the town was this big, because really he made it sound like I was going to be talking to 5 people. So this is great. And I love the fact that the Air Force and the Marines, I can see some Marines up there, made a point of coming out today, because they don't have to be here. So thanks you guys for making it out. Y'all appreciate it. And that you had a violinist, a piano player, an amazing songwriter. I was having fun. I hope he comes to Nashville one day. We'll all write together. Marching bands, yeah, lots of great music. So, and putting that together is not an easy task. So you guys should be really fortunate. I do a lot of these around the nation, and we never get to have that great of music. So I'm very happy to be part of it. Y'all are lucky. Good job, by the way. So, before I even get started, I want you to know that I don't take a second of this for granted, and I consider this a privilege and an honor to come in and tell the story. People, when you're on an airplane, you walk on with a guitar, people go, hey, so what do you do? And I go, really, I'm just a storyteller. I don't come in, I know they call it like a keynote speech, but I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. If I had been in the Air Force, I would have had a PowerPoint presentation. They don't let us use those things in the Army. It's too complicated. So it's a privilege, because really I'm just going to tell you stories, and the stories I'm going to tell you about the people that were on my left and the people that were on my right that day, because I know that by the grace of God, the only reason I'm still around is because of those guys. I consider it a blessing because I love what I do. I love what I do, which is something that I feel we all have in common. My mom has been a teacher for 32 years. She would not be doing it that long if she didn't love it. Now, I hear it every Sunday when I call home. I hear all the complaints about the school system and the budgets and the parents and the standardized testing and all the, she's a teacher in South Florida. She faces a lot of the same challenges y'all have. A lot of kids are still learning English as their second language. I hear it all. But Mom loves what she does. And I know that everybody in here, from people who work on the grounds to the people who are administration, everybody in between, you're certainly not here for the money. You're here because you're motivated. You're here because you believe in what you're doing. And you're here because you know you're making a difference, which is a lot of why, now you know why a story of the military is relevant to what you do. Because you have a lot in common with the military, especially the people. They are passionate about what they do. They do it because they know they're making a difference. So, first of all, I want to thank you for choosing a career that's an honorable and a noble one, and it's impacting the world in ways in which you have no idea how important what you do is. And what I want you to remember when you get done hearing these stories is just how important you are as an individual. Someone will always come in and talk about the team. They're always going to tell you how important the team is, and yes, the team is very important, but the team is useless without you, the individual, because you are the one piece of the puzzle that makes everything work. You are the one link, the one brick in the wall that makes everything come together and work. And that's what I want you to start seeing yourself as, because when you do, you start stepping up your game. When you start seeing yourself as the one piece of the puzzle that everybody around you is counting on, just as you were counting on your person to the left and the person on your right, everybody is counting on each other. And when you start seeing yourself as that, your game steps up, and then the whole team is lifted to greatness. And that's the stories I'm going to tell you, because they're not about the generals and the colonels. The stories I'm going to tell you about are the young folks who are privates and young sergeants and the examples that they set. I'll talk a little bit about planning, a little bit about training, but mostly I'm going to focus on leadership. And leadership, as you know, has nothing to do with the position. The colonel over here who's wearing the eagle on his collar will tell you that. Leadership is about the example that you set. And that could be the brand. How many first-year teachers do we have in here? Raise your hand. Okay. Thank you, first of all, for choosing to do this, because it's far and few between. The folks that have been here for 25 and 30 years, and I know we have them in here, and they will tell you that it is about the example that you set. It is not about the position. And everybody is watching you, whether they tell you or not. They're all watching the example that you set. So that's what leadership's about, and that's what I'm going to focus on. Now, how many, I'm going to ask the guys up there in green, I'm going to ask you a question. How many of y'all that are serving in the military had family members before you that served, whether it was a mom, grandpa? Yeah. See how that works? It's a family business. It really is. It's a family business. And if you don't tell the stories of the people that you know, then who's going to tell your stories? Who's going to tell them? Because you're the ones that know them. Now, how many folks in here come from this area and came back to work in the school system that are from here? Okay. How many folks in here have had teachers and family members in here that have taught before you? Okay. What you need to remember, and I'm talking to the new people as well, that the years and the stories that you've learned, you've got to pass them on. So I'm not one guy up here bragging. I'm not bragging. I'm passing on stories because they benefit the people around you. So if you've been here for 30 years, help the person who's been here the first time. Make them feel like they're just as important as anyone who's been here who could be wearing the colonel. You're just as important. You are the one piece that makes everything work, okay? Now, I think that the reason that this story resonates with so many folks is because it's never really any different. If it was our grandpas in World War II, or uncles in Korea, or my dad in Vietnam, or my best friends that are over there in Afghanistan and Iraq, it's always the same. You go over there, we go over every year on a USO tour at Christmas time, and I sit down in the chow halls with someone and say, hey, where are you from? What do you do? And within 3 minutes, those people will start talking about the person here and the person there. The stories are always the same. And if there's anyone in here, how many folks in here, let me ask another question, how many folks in here have served in the military before? Okay, first of all, thank you for your service, all right? Now, if any of y'all know those people, watch them while I'm telling these stories, because they'll nod their head and they'll giggle because they know the same folks that I'm going to talk about. Our story started on a Sunday afternoon. It was a day off from training. We weren't even supposed to be working. I was writing a letter home to my mom. Dear Mom, here we are in lovely Mogadishu, Somalia, and then somebody walks out of the airplane hangar. It was what we called our home. And they walk out and say, all right, get it on. And it meant a mission was coming down. You got to drop what you're doing. Now there are guys playing volleyball, and there's people doing whatever it is they do on their day. The military is full of great squared away individuals. It's also got some weirdos in there. And those are the dudes that on their day off are sharpening knives, you know. And I'm just going to tell you, you kind of watch out for those folks. So we got to go walking in to go do what we have to do, and it's called a standard operating procedure, an SOP. There's certain things that you have to do, even though the mission to get it on was a routine for us, because just about every other day they came out and yelled, get it on, because we never knew it was going to be a real mission. The idea was to fly around the city and keep the bad guys on their toes. Sometimes it was a real insertion, sometimes it wasn't, but we always had to treat it as if it was. Now, you never take the routine for granted. The routine is there for a reason. The routine is there so that things don't get missed. If things start getting missed and details begin getting overlooked, it leads to a big word that we call complacency, and complacency causes all kinds of issues, and I don't care what it is that you do in this world. When you start getting complacent, there's lots of issues that happen. Now, in our job, the issues were lives. You may think sitting here, well, you know, okay, Kenny, lives aren't really on the line for me. No one's shooting at us. But I beg to differ. People are not shooting at you, but lives definitely are on the line considering what it is that you do for a living. Considering what everyone in here is here for, lives are on the line and the world is being impacted directly by the example that you set. Never get complacent, because the routine is there so that nothing gets missed. So I got to go in as a young team leader. My job is to get my men lined up and go down the line and make sure everybody's got their job to do. Is the machine gun wrapped with plastic so that the dirt wouldn't get inside when we went out of the aircraft? Was the medical bag packed correctly? I had packed the medical bag correctly the night before. I already knew. I was the only one that could open it. But you never take routine for granted. The routine said that we were supposed to open up the medical bag and check it. So I had to check it, go down the line. I had everybody double check myself, check your men. Now, in addition to our body armor and our standard load, I had my rifle, I had a shotgun that was Velcroed to my hip. I had the medical bag. It's about 70 pounds of gear is what everybody's wearing. Now 70 pounds, you can look at me, I weigh 163 pounds. Add 70 pounds, it starts making your knees buckle just a little bit. Now the worst thing that they gave me, which I hated carrying, was this thing called a law. And a law is a light anti-tank weapon. It's just a little rocket launcher, it's about that big. And it weighs 4.5 pounds. And I hated it because it weighed 4.5 pounds. Because you add 4.5 pounds to this frame, and all of a sudden I start going, I'm like, hey, Sergeant Watson, how come I got to carry the law? They don't have any tanks. My platoon sergeant's answer was, because it's better to have and not need, Sergeant Thomas, than to need and not have. I'm not carrying it, so you will. Yeah. Great. So, now in the infantry is usually a squad is about 8 to 10 guys is normally for a squad in the infantry. Well, the Rangers have always been a little bit short-handed, so we only had 5 men in our squad. There was Doug Bourne, who was my good buddy from Texas, and he was a young sergeant. He was the squad leader. I was a young sergeant. In fact, Doug and I had pinned on our sergeant stripes the same day. And I remember, well, how come Doug, officially he outranks me because he's the squad leader? And I remember asking Sergeant Watson, like, hey, Sergeant Watson, how come Sergeant Bourne gets to be the squad leader? Because he's from Texas. What? Yeah. You don't know how long I've been waiting to tell that story here in the state of Texas. Because I don't know what it is about the state of Texas, but apparently y'all rank everybody else. In fact, when we get to when we go overseas on these tours, you'll shake about 1,000 hands a day. And generally it goes like this. It's like, hey, what do you do? Where are you from? And most people will tell you, I'm from Greenville, or I'm from Boston, sir, up somewhere near Chicago. Do you know what the answer is from everybody here? Texas. Yeah, I still haven't quite figured it out, but God bless y'all. So I got to go in and get my men lined up. Now I only got 3 men, so there's usually 2 other team leaders, but we didn't have enough men to warrant that, so it was just me. Now I'm going to introduce you to my guys. There was Specialist Melvin DeJesus. DeJesus was from the streets of Puerto Rico. He was that kid. The only reason he was in the Army was because the judge in Puerto Rico gave him the option. Son, you can go into the Army or you can go to jail. What would you like to do? I would take the Army, and he was definitely one of the guys that you were happy. I mean, I'm sure you all know that person. We are happy that he was on our side. Okay. DeJesus, he had just come home from Ranger School, meaning he had his Ranger tab. So we're going to train him up to be a new leader. And he was such a hard kid. I mean, there was nothing that you could show him that he hadn't already seen. I remember one day we were training. Man, this is a Carl Gustav. It's a rocket launcher that can penetrate 6 inches of armored steel. Are there any questions? Yo, man, in Puerto Rico, everybody had a rocket launcher. Huh? What? Glad you're on my side, DeJesus. There was Eric Saransky, was a good, solid kid from the Midwest, and I loved having him. He was just squared away, and he had done 2 years of community college, came in to do his time, a great soldier. Then there was David Floyd. Now, y'all will get this, because, see, I'm from the South, and what David Floyd is in the South is we call him a bless your heart. Meaning, when he comes walking up, like this, man, bless your heart. Because, well, see, now I get to go into a lot of colleges, and I'll describe David Floyd. David Floyd physically, see, college people, they don't know who Barney Fife is. Some of y'all know who Barney Fife is. Floyd, that was Floyd. He was from South Kakalaki, Carolina, somewhere, and he was Soup. And Soup is a nickname for soup sandwich, and a soup sandwich is, it's good for nothing. And that was Floyd. And I did not like having Floyd on my team because he was a pain in my butt because I had to train him constantly. Everybody else, it seemed to come pretty easy for them. But Floyd was he was that student that he couldn't keep up. He couldn't figure it out. He never got it on the first time. And so it was up to us to retrain him. In fact, one day we had a road march, it was 12 miles, and you put 50 pounds on your back, and they said, finish it in 3 hours. That physically everybody in here could do it. It just doesn't feel good. It hurts. It's hard. You don't want to do it again. And at 3 hours and 3 minutes, Floyd came across the finish line. And I'm like, Floyd, you're late. What are you doing? Well, I was kind of tired, Sergeant. I thought I'd just rest a little bit, pace myself. So everybody else has passed their road march and they let them go for the weekend. On Saturday morning, who's out there walking the road march again? Now you may think that it's up to David Floyd to pass his road. Well, it is, but so was Saransky, so was DeJesus, Doug Bourne, and Keni Thomas. We're all out there walking the road march again because you're as good as your weakest link. And that's the bottom line. You are as good as your weakest link. We don't get to choose who we work with. All you can do is hold their standards high and bring them up to meet the standards. It's a tricky subject when I start talking to education, because there is a tendency to bring the median down so that everybody's happy, so that everything's uniform, so that everybody feels good about themselves. But the problem with that is when you bring everything down, you have a lot of mediocrity. And you have never heard a coach come on TV on Saturday morning and say, "Hey, coach, how do you think y'all going to do?" "Well, I think we're looking pretty mediocre. This is going to be great." People want to know they're part of something great. You want to know that the people you work with are as good as they possibly can be at what they're doing. You want to be able to count on them 100% and then some. And how do you do that? You set your standards high and you bring the people up to meet the standards. Now, at some point, if David Floyd can't pass his road march, we got to let him go. There's other jobs in the military for him. The Ranger Regiment is not the place. But David always managed, with the help of the squad, to make it across and pass his standards, whether it was a proficiency test or some sort of physical fitness test. We got him across that line. So we're going down the line. I'm getting all my guys ready, and Sergeant Watson, our platoon sergeant, is inside the briefing room with Doug. And they come out, and they've got a photograph that's about a little 8x10 black and white picture of the downtown of Mogadishu. And there's a building from a rooftop perspective, and it's circled in red. And he throws it on the ground. He says, "Everybody gather around." And he looks down and he goes, "All right, that's the target building right there. Yeah, and that's the corner of the building that we're going to rope in at. Any questions?" And that was it. 10 minutes ago, I was writing a letter home to my mom on a day off. I wasn't even supposed to be there, and just like that, our whole lives changed. The whole direction of our lives changed just like that. Don't think for a second that minimal time we spent in the huddle, don't confuse that with being poorly prepared. There's a huge difference, because if you plan well in advance and you implement tough, realistic training. Now, you can call training what you want. You can call it practice, you can call it rehearsals, you can call it self-improvement. But if you train constantly on the planning that you have done so that you can implement every little bit of that plan that you thought you might come up with, you what if it to death, and then you implement tough training so that you train as you fight and you fight as you train, meaning you're only going to be as good as you prepared yourself to be. Planning and training. But when it comes down to it, the thing that makes it successful is the leadership, and the leadership at every single level. Because David Floyd is my machine gunner, and if the only person David is in charge of is himself, he better be doing it by example, and he better be an absolute expert at that gun, because as good as I am, I can't do it all. I have got to count on him. I have to, and I want to know that the person on my right and the person on my left are as great as they can be at the job I need them to do, because I can't do it all myself. All right, so we get the call. We're going into Mogadishu. Now let's just say we're gonna pretend that this is north. Okay, so if this is north, that would be east, west, and there's the south. We're going to come in from the north. Now let me give you a real quick background on why Task Force Ranger was even in the country to begin with. There was a bad guy, his name was Mohammed Farah Aidid. Aidid was a warlord, and he had been attacking the United Nations, attacking the food shipments, and then American troops started guarding the food shipments, and he started killing our troops. We were asked to go in and hunt this guy down. Now, if you're looking at a city that in circumference is about as big as Dallas, it's a daunting task to go in and grab one man, given a time and location, and hoping he's still in that building when you get there 10 minutes later. But we were Task Force Ranger. We had no doubt in our minds. We were completely overconfident, and we were the baddest group of men ever put together. You ask us, we'd be happy to tell you. And it was made up of one company of Rangers from Fort Benning, Georgia, one squadron of Delta Force operators from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Now, the Delta Force, if you don't know what they are, they're sort of like your Pro Bowl or NBA All-Stars of Army Special Operations. And if you can dream it up, they've probably done it. But the Army doesn't even like to acknowledge that they exist, so I didn't tell you that they were there. And then there was some Air Force personnel, special operators, pararescue guys, and CCT guys, amazing troops. I never really got to see them too much because they were always hanging out on the beach with the condominiums that the Air Force flew in for them. Ultimately, if we get, sometimes the band goes to these high schools and the Army recruiter will be at the high school and he'll want to sponsor the event, go, hey look, you can join the Army and you can get out and still be cool, and some kid will come up to you and goes, hey, I'm thinking about joining the Rangers, you got any advice? And I'll be like, yeah, dude, join the Air Force. You guys were the smart, quality of life is what it's all about, so good job. There was a group of Navy guys in there. They were special operators. They had tattoos of small sea mammals on their arms. I can't tell you who they were, but they were there. And so we were all put together to get one guy. We had been there for 3 months and we hadn't gotten the one guy. We figured with as bad a group of men as we were, with the 160th, the Captain Kirks of Army Aviation flying us around, we'd own this city. 3 months later, we still had not gotten a deed. When you set a goal, because all of you will begin this year by setting goals. And you set a time frame, and you will say, okay, here's where I want to be in this amount of time. Does it ever happen as easy as you want it to? It doesn't. It never happens as easy. It's always a harder job. It always takes a little more work and a little more effort and a little more time. And what happens is, somewhere in between here and there, it starts taking its toll on morale. People start going, man, they start moping around. They're like, when you hear people around you start saying, what's the point? What are we doing here? As a person that leads by example, it is your job, absolutely, to grab them and say, let me remind you of why we're here. Let me remind you of the point. Let's not get caught up in the obstacles of the difficulties of where we're at right now. Let's remember where we've got to be. Because I can't tell you when, and I can't tell you where, but I know at some point, the moment's going to come when you're going to be called upon to do something great. It's going to happen. And it's how well you prepared yourself in advance and the people around you and their leadership that is directly proportional to the success of your mission. Planning, training, and leadership. It's those three things. So make sure they're as good as they can be. And in our job, the proportions are measured in lives lost. So we don't want to lose any lives. I want to make sure that everybody gets home. So I trained my guys as good as they could be, and I planned everything as well as I thought I could plan at my level, and I made sure that everybody knew their job as absolute experts. Now, if this is the north, remember, we're coming in on helicopters. Here's the way it's going to work. If you can imagine a building in the middle of a city. So there's a street running this way, and there's a street running that way. The Little Bird helicopters come in first. Little Bird helicopters are a bubbled helicopter. They have a glass with 2 men in the seats. They have skids on the side, and we would put benches on the sides of those skids so that the Delta guys could sit on the bench, and then the Little Bird could land on the roof, and the Delta guys could just step right off, and the Little Birds take off. The Black Hawks would come in right behind them, and we would land at 1, 2, 3, and 4 corners of that building, and the Rangers would rope out and put a perimeter around the building so that the guys on the inside knew that they could clear the rooms and not have to worry about people coming in from the outside. So that was the idea. As we come down the street, my job in the door as the team leader was very simple. They gave me 2 tasks. The first task was to identify the target building and confer with the crew chief. I'm like, okay, simple enough. Now, I don't know how many people in here have seen rooftop photographs of buildings in Mogadishu. I'm going to tell you that a rooftop in Mogadishu looks pretty much like a rooftop in Atlanta. I couldn't tell you if that was the Olympic Hotel or it was the Home Depot. And worst of all, you couldn't see anything because there was dirt. The helicopter's 50 feet off the ground. 50 feet off the ground, there's dirt kicking and swirling up into the aircraft. You can't see anything. You can barely see buildings going by, and I'm going, oh man, I hope they don't think I know what I'm doing. And I'm looking through the windshield of the aircraft, and I see the 2 pilots, and Chief Brown is talking to Chief Wood, and I got the headset on. Chief Brown looks at Chief Wood and goes, hey, can you see anything? I can't see squat. Maybe the Blackhawks got some special dust-busting equipment that I don't know about. But I don't know how the pilots see where they're going. But I never had to doubt the pilots. I knew that somehow they would put us on the money. Do you know why I knew they were going to put us on the money? It wasn't because they were my buddies. We didn't hang out. We didn't talk about Christmas together. They had a job to do. And Chief Brown knew that he was the one piece of the puzzle that made every single thing work. Every bit of that task force, the millions of dollars that were being spent to send us over there, all hinged upon him. It really did. It was his job to put us on the money, because if he didn't put us on the money, it meant our squad was someplace else. And if we were someplace else, we weren't being covered, and we were screwed. And that meant that corner of the building was not being covered, and the inside of the building was not being covered, and lives were on the line because Chief Brown didn't put us on the money. It was his job, and he knew it. So every single time he executed and executed well. And when he flared that aircraft, and I can see the building now. I saw the little birds coming out of the dirt. I could see the Delta operators crashing the doors. I could see explosives going off, and I could hear gunfire on the objective. For all practical purposes, it was what they call a hot LZ. Now, the bird starts to flare, and they yell ropes. And the ropes kick out both sides of the helicopter. One goes here, one goes there. There's my squads on the left, another squad on the right. Now, when you fast rope out, you're not rappelling. So you're not hooked in, you're not harnessed in. It's just, you just grab a rope and go. You got a pair of gloves on. So the science teachers and the math teachers can help people out on this one. My second job was very important. It was to kick the rope out and make sure that the bottom of the rope hits the ground. Now remember, if the bird is 50 feet off the ground, the rope's 60 feet long. That gives you 10 feet of leeway. Now, if the bird happens to be 70 feet off the ground, what happens when you reach the end of the rope? See, you want some cool word problems for your kids? Let's give them that one. Because you laugh, because that's learning comes hard, because somebody did it one night. They kicked the rope out and went down. There was no more rope. Wow! So make sure the bottom of the rope hits the ground. When it hits the ground, you send your guys, and they reach out. And I remember there's this thing called gravity, and it works at 9.8 meters per second squared, and it will yank you out of an aircraft whether you are ready to go or not. Very important that you have a hold of the rope before you lean. One of our guys, Todd Blackburn, had reached for the rope, but the bird had yanked because it got hit with an RPG, which is a rocket, and Todd fell. He fell 50 feet and he was out. Bam, broke his back. But we had planned for a casualty on infill. We weren't happy about it. Shouldn't be working. I hate that this has happened. This is not good, but we planned for it. But it took 4 guys to move Todd, and it took 2 Humvees that were waiting over in the wings to drive up and put him on board and drive him away. And we had planned for a casualty, but this was right away, the mission took on a very serious tone, because there was gunfire going off, the headset screaming, we got a casualty behind us on the helicopter in the rear. I'm the last man out of my bird. As I reach for the rope, I look at the crew chief who's standing right here in front of me, and his name was Ned Norton. Ned looks, at this point you can picture him, he looks like Darth Vader, because he's got his blast shields down like this, and he's got a mask on, and he had stuck this sticker across his helmet. It was red, white, and blue, and it said, "No fear." Very proud of this sticker, Ned was. And he's looking at me, he's going, "Remember, no fear, no fear." You know, now man, there's gunfire going off, and no fear, and I'm like, screw you. Because it's very easy for Ned to say no fear when he's flying away. See ya. But when we hit the ground, man, we were right where we needed to be. I really didn't. It was from here to there, to the corner of the building. And now there were people, when we hit the ground, yes, there were people firing at us, and they were shooting our way, but it wasn't that bad. And as many times as I say this, I still think, I go, boy, that sounds funny. There were people shooting at us, and it wasn't that bad. But it wasn't that bad mainly because they were missing. And that's the preferred outcome when people shoot at you. Do your best to make them miss. And 35 minutes into the mission, it was done. The mission was done. The Delta guys had rounded up 12 of the bad guys that were in that room. Now, Adid wasn't in the building, we knew that, but 12 of his people were, and we got them. The Humvees came driving up they were out there waiting on the wings of the city, put the bad guys on the trucks drive away. We are waiting to go home. The mission is done, it's exfil. I'm already thinking about finishing the letter home to Mom. I'm like, "Dear Mom, you're never gonna believe what happened. I'm a combat veteran. I could qualify for a VA loan. This is great." And just like that, the unthinkable happens. Just like that. The first helicopter got shot down, and it got shot down right above us. And we saw it go down, and it went down about 5 blocks. Now that's the north, it was 5 blocks, so 3 blocks this way, and about a left-hand turn, 2 blocks up that way. And everything changed. The mission was done. We were supposed to be heading home. That isn't right. That isn't fair. That shouldn't be. How can that be happening? But there it was, and what are you going to do about it? Fortunately, we had made a plan. What if the unthinkable happens and a bird goes down? Here's how we will react. It was within moving distance on foot, so that's exactly what we were going to do. So now you got about 125 guys who are on the ground, and we're all going to pick up and we're going to move to this crash site and try and secure the crash site, because we knew what happened if there was no one there to help are people who were on that bird. If any of them survived, if there was nobody there to help, they weren't going to survive because the mob was going to overrun that crash site. But it became a foot race. We've got to get up and we've got to get there. Now, there was a rescue helicopter that got there quick. And this is where I'm sure some of you guys know, I'm sure some of those Air Force CCT guys and PJs are heroes and legends because those guys were in on that rescue bird fighting at that helicopter before any of us got there to save lives and keep the bad guys away. But we got to pick up and we got to move. Now, just before we get ready to go, remember my buddy Doug from Texas, he's holding his neck, and I see him, and he's bleeding, and he runs inside the building, and the medic follows him in, and about 3 minutes later, Sergeant Watson comes out and says to me, he goes, "Hey, Bourne's been hit. You're in charge." I go, "What happened to him, Sergeant? Is he going to be okay?" He said, "Bourne's been hit. You're in charge." I go, "Yeah, but what's wrong with his neck, Sergeant Watson?" He goes, "Hey, look at me." He said, "You're in charge, Sergeant Thomas." That wasn't fair. It wasn't right. I didn't want that responsibility. I didn't even know if I was ready for it. But there it was. And what are you going to do about it? Well, fortunately, we had planned for that. What if the guy in charge goes down? What are you going to do? Well, I knew I didn't have to be happy about it, but I knew what to do. So I grabbed Doug's radio and I stuck it on my hip and I took the medical bag off and I handed it to Jesus. I said, "To Jesus, you're the team leader now, brother." Roger, sir. In Puerto Rico, everybody's a team leader. Wow. Floyd, look after Saransky. Saransky, look after Floyd. If you do what you know is right, we're going to make it out of here. Let's go. And we pick up and we start to move down the street. Now, we're the last guys in this long line of men on both sides of the street heading this 3 blocks down that way. Well, now Floyd starts yelling. And he's like, there was somebody shooting and he was over that way and he was getting close. And Floyd sees him. And Floyd's like, hey, Sergeant Thomas. Hey, he's up in the tree, Sergeant Thomas. Hey, Sergeant, he's up in the tree. I can't hear anything because there's so much noise going on. I'm like, Floyd, what? He goes, he's up in the tree, Sergeant. And Sergeant Watson hears him, though, and yells across the street, hey, Floyd, do you see him? And Floyd's like, yeah, Sergeant, he's up in the tree. Yeah, I heard you. If you see him, why don't you shoot at him? That would be the light bulb going off above his head. Floyd figured it out. I'm not trying to make light of the situation, but Floyd figures like, oh, I enlisted into the Army and I'm a machine gunner. And I said, Floyd, shoot back. And he put his head down. He charged that weapon and he fired. Then I teach you this, when you shoot a machine gun should be shot in what they call a 5 to 7 round burst. And you do that, so it sounds sort of like this. It's like, gak, 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 gak. And you give it a little bit of a break every now and then so that the barrel won't overheat. Floyd was a little bit excited, and he was, I'm like, Floyd! And it was glowing by this time. I'm like, and like the little redneck that he was, he stands up and takes his goggles off and puts them on his head and goes, did I get him? And I'll tell you the truth, I do not know if Floyd got that guy, but he got the whole tree. That's a technique. Good shot, Floyd. Let's go. Now, when we made that first-hand turn, that first left turn, there wasn't much more that we could push in. And everybody was asked, well, how was it like the movie? And I said, well, at that point, it was Hollywood. I mean, there were so many rounds coming down the street from Rangers. You could see tracer rounds, and there were so many rounds coming in from the bad guys, from doorways and alleys and rooftops. It was nuts. But for me, it kind of felt like training. I felt like, okay, we're shooting, we're moving, we're communicating. I got my guys in a good place. I pushed them in about 30 yards, and they turned around. We've all got our little sectors of fire. And it was training up until the first guy got hit. When the first guy goes down, it snaps you into a whole nother level of reality. And I still to this day have not figured out a great way to explain it. Other than, one, I know physically you get like a spider sense. You get very cognizant of what's going on you in a 360 degree. Your senses are on overload because your brain's getting pumped full of chemicals that are putting your senses on overdrive. But it also, you start feeling this lump in your chest. And it starts coming up into your throat. And it's called panic. And you start wondering, man, I don't think I can handle this. And that is when everybody finds this big thing that we all want to have. We all want to be, we put it on our wall lockers in the hallways. We want our people at church and our family and our kids, we all want to have people of character. And when you find your character is when you are facing the worst of times. Because that's when you're asked to do something above and beyond what you would normally do. Your brain is telling you run away and hide. That's what it's telling you to do. It's telling you to survive. And nobody would have noticed if just one guy had kind of stood behind the wall and maybe every now and then poked his head out. No one would have noticed and no one would have blamed him. But what would have happened if he had done that and fallen out? He would have left the person on the left and the person on the right hanging. And they would have been in trouble because he couldn't do his job. And you saw people stepping up. You saw young guys, 19, 20-year-old folks, stepping up and doing incredible things in the name of character. Because I promise, you've heard it, I promise you, there is no such thing as a hero who was not scared. But he did the right thing anyway because there were people counting on him. That's why. That's why. The only reason you are going to step forward in the face of something that's overwhelming. And it doesn't have to be combat. You've all seen it. You've seen stories. People who've stepped forward and done amazing things. Why did they do it? They did it because it had to be done. You don't have to be happy about it, but what are you going to do about it? Okay. The first guy that I saw go down was Earl. Earl Fillmore was a Delta operator. And he was, remember now, this is the super soldier. These are the guys that are as good as it gets, and they're not supposed to get shot. And there it was. He got hit, and I ran over to go see if I could help, and his team leader, Sergeant Hooten, says, hey man, we got to get him medevaced. And I run back to Sergeant Watson. I said, Sergeant Watson, I got to get this guy out of here. And Sergeant Watson already knew because he had heard on the radio. Another helicopter got shot down. So we now had 2 birds on the ground, and we only had enough resources to get to that one. So he knew that they weren't going to send another helicopter and risk it to land so that we could medevac one man. And he says, well, can we move him out on foot? And I run back and I say, hey, Sergeant Hooten, what if we move him out on foot? We'll call the Humvees. They'll come back and get us. And Sergeant Hooten looks at me and very, very matter-of-factly just says, nah, man, don't worry about it. He's dead. And he's dead. To this day, it bothers me how little that seemed to affect me at the moment. Because I felt like I had a job to do. You got to drive on. You got to move through it. I got things I got to do. Yeah, he's dead. Okay, we've been trained for that. He's a KIA. What do you do? But I'm going to tell you, this was another one of those moments that changed the direction of my thought for a lifetime. I do not come in here to preach. I do not come in here to preach, but I'm going to tell you, if you've never been a believer and that there's a soul inside of a human being and it goes someplace else when that body dies, if you don't subscribe to that point of view, I'm going to tell you you're dead wrong because you've never been there when someone dies. I don't know who it was or what it was. I knew Earl Fillmore, and that was not, it may have resembled him, but it was about as lifeless as that piece of wood right there. It was a suitcase of nothing. He didn't look like he was sleeping. He didn't look like he was playing dead in the movies. Done. I know when that man died. Because 13 seconds ago when I ran away, he was still alive. And when I came back, I was like, whoa. And now I knew what my mission had become. My mission was not about the crash site. It was not about the greater glory of the Ranger Regiment or the medals or the CNN headline story. It was that was not going to happen to my 3 guys. That was it. And you can go back and you can go into history and you can ask anybody from every war that's ever been fought, and that's what the veterans will tell you. Well, at some point it just became about making sure that we all survived. And I turned around and there's DeJesus and Floyd and Saransky, and all 3 of them should have been pulling security and looking that way. And they're all looking back at Earl going, oh. Because what do you think is going through David Floyd's mind? As a guy who's probably been in the Army all of 3 minutes, and here he is in combat situation, way in over his head, and the super soldier just got killed. David's thinking, when is it my turn? I'm going next for sure. And he's thinking about his mortality. And I saw it in his eyes. And I looked at him and said, hey, listen, man, you need to take care of Saransky. Saransky, you need to take care of, I cannot be here. I got to go up and down the line. I got tons of things I've got to do. Listen to DeJesus, he's your team leader, he knows what he's doing. And the challenge here, I understand, was that by now DeJesus is speaking Spanglish, man. He's like, para derecha, center, come on, hand him. Wow. If you can understand what DeJesus just said, you do what he says. But otherwise, y'all know what is right. I've trained you the best I know how. And it's got to be the same for a parent or a teacher who, okay, I know that I sent those people off and did the absolute best I could do with them. Because those 18 hours that we fought in combat stick in my mind every single day. And I don't mean it in a weird sort of Rambo way, like where I hear voices in my head. I don't. I constantly think, did I do the right thing? Did I do enough? Could I have done something more that would have ensured that someone else made it out of there unhurt? Because at the end of your day, when it's your time to go, you want to know that you did everything right. You don't want to know, you want to have regrets. You want to know that you did everything you could do to make sure that the people around you were taken care of. And if you sent me back in there, given the circumstances, I promise you I would do everything exactly the same. Because you train as you fight, and you fight as you train, and you lead by example. And I watched the example of the people around me. They were incredible what they were doing. They were incredible what they were doing. Now, everyone in here's heard stories of greatness, of the human being doing amazing things and putting their lives on the line in the name of other human beings. We've all heard it. And you see it on the news. It's called the ordinary individual who does the extraordinary deed, right? You can go down to the Gulf Coast a few years ago and you can hear stories about people who did pretty incredible things to save others during those storms. Just in my little town outside in Nashville, Tennessee, way out in the country, tornadoes leveled it. You should have seen what the neighbors came together and did for each other. Stories of greatness, we've all seen it. I've seen things that can be defined as nothing less than heroic, and by its truest definition. Doc Strauss was our medic. His ability to stay so calm and tend to the wounded under extraordinary amounts of pressure. He was being shot at directly, and Doc was an odd individual. And to his credit, I'm going to say his oddness was because of his unlimited access to the medications. But Doc was always trying to figure out a better way to save a life. He always had his nose in a book because he knew he was the one piece of the puzzle that made everything work. Because if Doc couldn't save a life, the millions of dollars that had been spent to send us over there were useless. Doc knew that everything about Task Force Ranger hinged on his ability to do his job. And what he did was extraordinary that day. Sergeant Watson's ability to orchestrate all of us throughout that chaos. You know, in the morning, when the Humvees came back and the 10th Mountain came back and Rangers came back and Ranger cooks put on body armor and came in force and mechanics put on body armor and came in force, they put all the wounded people on every vehicle that they had and drove them home. The rest of us had to run out of the city. There were no more rides left. Wasn't happy about it, but we had to do what we had to do. And Sergeant Watson was the only man out of all the people that went in with a certain group of people that brought all his guys back. The only guy who did it. It's truly extraordinary. And I'll never forget the video footage that I saw the next day. Remember I told you there was a second crash site, right? Well, there was nobody left to get to it. They told us that at our crash site we were outnumbered 10-1. I'm telling you the truth, the video footage that I saw of that second crash site, there were 200 militia running to that crash. 200. These two men, Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart, were Delta snipers up in the aircraft that was circling over that second crash site. And they knew what they were up against. And they repeatedly volunteered being told, no, we can't risk it. There's not enough backup. You can't go in. And like, look, we don't have enough time. There's still people alive on the crash. We're going in. The helicopter pilot put them down 200 yards away. Those two men sprinted under fire to that crash site and methodically held off the bad guys one by one. Pow! Pow! Now, they're Delta operators until they ran out of ammunition. That's how many enemy they were facing. To save one man. It wasn't their buddy, it wasn't their pal. They probably didn't even really know Mike Durant all that well. But Mike Durant's alive today because of those two men, and those two men died fighting to save him. And they were both awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. When I tell you it's a privilege, and I tell you it's an honor to come in and tell their story, man, I mean it from the bottom of my heart, because if I don't tell their story, who will? Because there's not a lot of us from Task Force Ranger that are even given the opportunity to be handed a microphone. So I'm more than happy to tell you about how great they were. Don't think for one second that any of those people in there were an ordinary individual. Ain't nothing ordinary about anybody who puts on the uniform and puts the boots on. You know why? Because it's a day in and day out commitment to setting an example for others to follow. I believe everybody in here has it in them to do the right thing when that big moment comes. You're gonna. If you were out on a corner and somebody had a car wreck, you would run over there to help them out, and you would do the right thing to save that life. But every morning when you get up and you get ready to go into work, I got to set an example for others to follow because they're watching me, whether they tell you or not. That's the tough part. Do not for 1 second sell yourself short and ever think that you are an ordinary individual. There is nothing ordinary about you. Man, don't even say it, because when you start saying it, you start believing it. And then it becomes an excuse. I'm just an ordinary individual. I don't really make a big difference in this world. And if you don't make a big difference, then what's the use of trying? If I don't need to try, I'm not really doing it. What are you doing here then? You are anything but ordinary. You know that you can go around this planet and there are billions of people on this earth and there is no one else like you. You are a one of a kind. You're a one of a kind model. You have been filled with gifts. All kinds of ways that you can go out there and do good things in the name of humanity. There's this book called the Bible. It's a bestseller. You ought to take a look at it one time. There's a chapter in there called Romans, and it's got lots of little motivational things about if you've been given the gift to teach, then by God, go and teach. If you've been given the gift to lead, then lead. You've all been given gifts. Whether you choose to use them, you're going to make a difference in this world, whether you know it or not. You're going to make a difference. How you choose to make the difference is up to you. Okay? I know it's not easy. I don't think that it is. I don't claim to say that going out there and doing it on a day in and day in basis is an easy thing to do. When we join the Rangers, they make you learn the Ranger Creed, and the very first stanza of the Ranger Creed addresses that very issue. It says, recognizing I've volunteered as a Ranger, fully knowing the hazards of my chosen profession. I've volunteered, fully knowing the hazards. Now, I don't know if every morning when y'all come into your schools that they get on the morning announcements and make you guys stand at attention and yell a creed out. That'd be kind of cool. The San Angelo Educational Creed. Recognizing I've volunteered. Wow. For the San Angelo West Texas School District, fully knowing the hazards of my chosen profession. Whatever they may be. I don't know if you got, if you need a creed, I got one for you. It's on the walls of the Delta Compound, it's on the walls of the Ranger Regiment, it's on the walls of just about every special operations unit out there. This again is from the Bible. It's the book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8. Isaiah 6:8 reads, and I heard the voice of the Lord saying, who will go for us and whom shall I send? And I answered, here am I, Lord, send me. Send me. See, now, I used to think that that was strictly a military verse. Oh, cool, man, they put something in there for soldiers. Send me. Yeah, because I don't really have to ask why. I just got to go do the job. But see, I don't carry M4s anymore. I carry Gibson guitars. And you can still send me to use the gifts that I've been given the gift of melody. Dave was given the gift to write songs, and he got up here and did something positive with it. I've been given the ability to tell a story. I've been privileged and blessed with a life where people will listen. So I think I'll go out there and send me. I'll go do something with it. You all have gifts you've been given. Now, the most lasting lesson that I ever learned came on the first day that I walked into the Ranger Regiment. And it was from the Sergeant Major. And he was waiting there for us to come in, all the new guys. And he was from Guam, and his name was Sergeant Major Leon Guerrero. And he talked like, you know, like the samurai guys in the movies, and he scared me, and he was about this tall, and he says, men, I want to congratulate you all for choosing an honorable and a noble profession. And he's smacking his hands like he goes, and he says, I was a punk kid. I had no idea what honorable and noble meant, but I do now. And he says, so as many of you are going to go on to long, distinguished careers, he goes, you're going to become part of the long and colorful Ranger history. But some of y'all are going to do your time, and you're going to get out, and you're going to go back into the world. And he goes, remember this, wherever it is that you do go, he says, the world needs Ranger doctors, and Ranger lawyers, and Ranger teachers. And that's what he said. And I know now what he meant. We don't all have to run around with high and tights and firing squads and shooting everything that moves. No, it's you need to lead and lead by example. It's why the Rangers' motto is Rangers lead the way. Here, come with me for a second. I could go, I found myself, I start preaching, and that's when I know I gotta stop and start playing. You wanna grab me a 1/4 inch? Thanks, bro. And it's why the Rangers' motto is Rangers lead the way. If you go out there and you make a difference in this world, you do it by the example you set. Now, I'm gonna play a song for you, and what's beautiful about today is music doesn't come out of nowhere, because we've had some great stuff going on today, and thanks, bro. And you guys are already ready to hear some music. Is that it? Yeah. This is a song that I choose to play. I get a chance to play one song for you. Now, when you play on the Grand Ole Opry, which is a pretty amazing thing in and of itself, you are told you get to do 2 songs. All right. You get to play your radio hit, and then you get to play one song that you better choose wisely. You want to kill us a second, Dave? And this is the song that I always choose. Now, when you go over on these USO tours, it's a big show, and there's lots of artists, and you get a chance to keep the tempo going. There's a big band, and there's cheerleaders, and they tell you, okay, keep the show up tempo and keep everybody excited. And we do that, and then I'll stop the show and I'll play the song. When you get on a helicopter and you go out to the FOBs, and a FOB, for those of you who don't know, is a forward operating base. And there's a lot less people at a forward operating base than are sitting in this building right now. And we'll walk off a helicopter, and all we got is this guitar. And sometimes we don't even have a microphone, and we'll play for them. And this is the song that we play. And it's because in what I just spent 35 minutes talking about, I can sum it up in 3.5 with a song. Everybody here wants to make a difference. It's why you chose to do what you do. Everyone here wants to know at the end of the day that what they have done matters. And for those who don't know how to make a difference, I tell them it's an easy thing. All you gotta do is lead. You lead by example. You don't have to stand out front and be the person with the eagle and the stars on your collar. You just gotta set an example for others to follow, because when you do that, the team around you takes notice. I promise you they do. And when you raise your right hand and step forward and say, send me, you've now become part of something much larger than just yourself. You've now become part of a team where everyone's counting on you. And you gotta do the right thing, even when you would rather not. And I could name every person in this song, and it's called Not Me. Now, I know there's a lot of us here, and if we get a chance, the beauty of what I get to do is not the airlines, it's y'all. If you get a chance and you can stick it out, come say hey. I'd love to meet you and hear your story, hear what you do. All right, and this is a song called Not Me. Picked out by default, was the only daddy there. We know what you're thinking, choose someone else instead. But this league was built on coaches who stood right there and said, not me, not me. No way with this job of mine, I could never find the time. Not me, no, not me. But the world becomes a better place. Someone stands and leads the way, steps forward, and they'd rather say, not me. Judge says you're the oldest, makes you the legal guardian. Sorry how you lost your folks, but there's no next of kin. Mother and a sister, she knew how hard it would be, but she softly said, I'll raise them, while the voice inside her screamed, not me, no, not me. Can't believe what's happening. This isn't how it's supposed to be. Not me, no, not me. But the world becomes a better place. Someone stands, leads the way, steps forward, when they'd rather say, not me. A young captain at attention, star pinned on his chest. He recalls the battle while the final roll calls are read. They were the finest soldiers, it was my privilege to lead. They deserve the medals, the men who died. Not me, not me, no, not me. Just did what I was called to do. Do the same if it was you. Not me, Lord knows, not me. But the world becomes a better place. Someone stands, leads the way, steps forward, when they'd rather say, not me. Yeah, yeah, steps forward, when they'd rather say, not me. Not me. There you go. Thanks for what you do, man. God bless you. All of you. Thank you. Good night. Oh, you know what? I promised Steve that I would take a picture of his hometown for him. If y'all would just all scoot in. What we're going to do is on the count of 3, y'all just going to yell, hey, Steve. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Hey, Steve! Thanks, y'all. God bless.
Thank you. You're a good guy. Would you remain standing, please, as we retire our colors? God bless each of our employees, our partners at Goodfellow Air Force Base, as we all strive for excellence, serve our children and our country. You are dismissed.